Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Rux over at G&O Truck Parts in Jackson, California. I had approached him about getting a truck flywheel for an art project, and he did give me one, but when I did the math, it just turned out that it wasn't going to be suitable for the art project. It was going to be way too top heavy, and the flywheel he gave me is gigantic, but it's still not big enough for the project. So I'm going to have to put that off. Since he did give me the flywheel, I do want to put it to a good use. And I have a project for it today, and that's going to be a new pedestal mount for a Vise. And while I'm at it, I also want to give a shout out to Steven over at Repurposed Salvage and Furniture. He contributed a piece of channeled steel I'll be using in this project, and let's get started. Okay, so here's the flywheel. It's about 17 or 18 inches across. It's pretty heavy. I'm guessing about 70 or 80 pounds. And the first thing I want to do is clean it up a little bit. Since I don't want to spend a lot of time cleaning on this, because this is going to be the bottom, I'm just going to hit it with this, Convert A. It's made by Superco. It's an environmentally friendly product. And it will convert this rust that you see into a hard black primer. So we'll just hit it with that and then go on with the build. I had just enough to do that. We're going to let that do its thing and then come back and take a look at it a little bit later. Okay, so my rust converting compound has left me with a nice black primer coat here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just burn right through it with some 7016 arc welding electrode. I want to leave 3 dimples on the bottom that'll act as feet, and those will let it sit on most any surface without rocking. So the next thing I need to do is mock up my actual tower beams that are going to make the pedestal for the Vise. And there are a lot of ways to do that. Fusion 360 would be one, but sometimes the easiest way is the old-fashioned way, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use a cardboard box. I'm going to make a piece of 8-inch channeled steel out of cardboard, and then I'm going to lay it on here, cut it, and mock up the whole thing. Okay, so the angle is a little bit off because I want this directly above the center, and it's hanging off. So I need to tilt it back some a little bit. Okay, so that's a good shape. All right, so now all I need to do is take this side here, because it's the better side, and I will lay that out on my channel steel and cut it out with the plasma cutter. Yeah, so this piece of steel weighs over 50 pounds. So when you cut it in half, that means you got 2 25-pound pieces, and what's going to happen to those? If I had propped this up on this stand where I usually cut things, that could have been a big problem with the 25-pound piece falling toward my foot. So I'll just lay it on the ground, cut it in half first, then lay out my marking for the remaining cuts. So when you have a real nice plasma cutter like a Hypertherm or a Lincoln Tomahawk or something like that, you can just lay the tip right on the metal, pull the trigger and drag, and it works just fine. My plasma cutter is a Chinese plasma cutter that is not so great. So if the tip contacts the metal, it shorts it out. That means I've got to use this roller spacer gadget. So this does make for a nicer, cleaner cut, but it also does something else. When the tip is touching the metal and you're dragging it, most of the arc is on the other side of the metal, and you're mostly protected. And just a goggle is all you generally need. But when you use one of these rollers, it lifts this tip up, and now you've got the arc on your side of the metal, and you need to protect yourself. And what I use for that is this face shield. I think it's made by Jackson. It's a number 7 face shield and goggle, and it goes right over my glasses. Now I'm ready for action. I left a pretty decent cut. Got a little rough at the corners where it was thick, but that's all right. So we'll just lay this along here, lay out this pattern. And while I'm at it, I'm going to lay out the other one and mark it in the mirror image of this. And we'll do that by folding the pattern the opposite way. While we're waiting for the tower pieces to cool, we can work on the pedestal, the perch mount. And this is the vise I'm going to use. It's an American-made Colombian. It's from the 60s. I got it for $10 at a yard sale. This here is a transfer punch. It is not a center punch. It is only meant to mark a hole. Okay, I've got my holes drilled. Now I want to put some bolts through there and screw some nuts down onto them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and weld those nuts into place. Well, that's not looking too bad. It's going to need some adjustment for sure, but that's not a bad start. Well, for the 5th or 6th time, I destroyed another 4.5-inch angle grinder, but this time it happened while it was still under warranty, so I took it back and upgraded to this. And this is where my microphone died because it was in direct sunlight in 90-degree heat. I guess it couldn't handle that. But what I'm doing here is just tacking up the tower section for a test fit. And here I went back to the plasma cutter and trimmed off a few 1/8 of an inch here and there just to give it a really great fit to make a nice tight weld. Okay, so now the tower is pretty well fitted to the flywheel, but take a look here, and I've got this bow. Now, I don't know if the camera's close enough to actually see that, but it's a gap of about 1/4 of an inch here. But I think I can clamp it together and stitch weld it, and then go along and do a bead up the whole front of it and seal that up. Shiva, come on. What I'm doing here is putting the dog out, and a lot of people don't think about this. Don't let your dog watch welding. Now, a lot of people don't give this a lot of thought, but if you smell anything while you are welding, what you are smelling is vaporized metal and flux and all kinds of crap. Don't breathe that in. Here I'm just tacking the tower onto the flywheel with the MIG welder. One thing that's not readily apparent on the video is I got a little bit of gap going on there, a little bit more than I would want to use the MIG to fill. So I'm going to come in here with some 7018 low-high and fill that gap. There it is, the Sundial Vise stand. Now all I need to do is level off the top and attach this. And I'm wondering, do I want the vise this high? I think maybe I do. That looks good too. Well folks, I am really happy with this result. I am replacing this rickety old clunky thing with this tribute to coolness, and I just couldn't be happier with the result. It's sturdy, it's solid, it's bigger, it's tougher, and look at it, it's beautiful. It's exactly what I was hoping for. I couldn't be happier with the result of this project. Well, completing this project is actually deserving of a beer, but I don't have any, so cold water is going to have to do it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click up here to see my last video. Click over here to see something in mine that YouTube thinks you'll like. And have a good one.